It's Dr. YaYa.
Hey, you guys. Hey, you guys. I'm thinking that you can hear me. It's good to have you back. I'm here. It's me. I'm sure that I can be heard. It's a great thing. Look at who's in the building. How you doing, Mr. Jones? It's good to see you. It's good to see you. I am so excited about tonight. I really, really am. I'm excited because you already know it's your good Judy, it's your girlfriend. It's your auntie, it's your cousin, it's your big sis, it's all of those things. And I'm here to give you 30 minutes of practical wisdom and common sense. And I'm here for it. I'm ready for it. I affirm that everything you need to learn today, you learned it. And everything that you needed to inspire and encourage you, you received it. I appreciate you all for your support. Don't forget to go to ask www.askdryaya.com. All the love. How you doing, Unc? It's good to see you. How you doing? Mr. Simmons, it's also good to see you. Raquel says hello to you, Chris. Chris, don't make me ban you out of my chat room. Don't make me do something bad to you, sir. But here it is. You know how we do it because I only give you 30 minutes. I'm in and out. So tonight I got this question. I got a question about what we should ask people in our lives, and not just people that we plan to have a relationship with, but even our friends, anyone who's going to be significant in your life. You have to ask these types of questions. And so I got this question, and Dr. YaYa, am I asking the right questions? And I'm going to tell you, probably not. You're probably not asking the right questions because we're just going to be real. That's what we do around here. We're real. So we ask questions like, when's your birthday? What's your favorite color? What do you do? What's your occupation? How much money do you make? We ask all those type of questions and it doesn't mean a thing. You're not getting anywhere. You're not getting any closer to finding out what type of person you're dealing with. Some of you don't even ask the person their last name. You hear some women are pregnant, well, what's the dad's name? Junebug? Well, what's Junebug's real name? I don't know, because you never even bothered to ask. Okay? You don't even ask questions sometimes about, have you been tested? You act like these things are curse words or something. But there are certain questions that you need to ask because especially if they're open-ended. If you allow the person to feel comfortable with the question, then the majority of the time, they won't feel like they're too vulnerable to answer. See, it's not the fact that people don't want to answer questions. It's the fact that they kind of feel vulnerable and kind of feel judged when you are asking. But there are 5 questions that should be asked, but you never do. These questions seldomly ever get asked, if ever, because sometimes you just don't view them as important. We have a lot of so-called relationship experts who tell you, why don't you answer these, ask these questions and you'll get right to the heart of it. We tell women, ask about his job security and ask him how much money he makes and stuff like that. And then the men have to ask the women, how many partners have you had? It doesn't matter. You're probably going to end up sleeping with her anyway. So let's just be real. Her body count doesn't matter if you're going to add yourself to it. It doesn't really matter. But when we want to discuss a person's personality, how they're going to treat you, how they treat themselves, how they treat others around you, we have to be diligent and observant. Because then you're not waking up next to somebody saying, damn, I didn't know you acted like that. How many times has that happened where you say, oh, I did not know she was like that, or I did not know he was like that? Why? Because you didn't ask questions. You just ask questions that skim the surface of stuff, just the very surface of things. You ask those questions, but you don't ask the questions where you can really pay attention to the answer. And most of the time, people ask questions as icebreakers. What the hell do you mean, icebreaker? I'm not trying to break the ice. I'm trying to get some truth. So there are 5 questions that you should be asking. So let's get right into it. Let's talk about those 5 questions. The first question is this: who was the person that you disliked the most during your childhood? Who was the person you disliked the most? Who was that person that you just had a problem with during your childhood? And you know what? This question says a lot. Because as an adult, if I look back on my childhood and I can tell you who was the person who caused me the most distress, that's usually a trauma associated with it. There's usually, when you impact a child so much so that when they become an adult, they can reach back to that place and say, oh, I can tell you right now who it was who was giving me distress. It was little Johnny on the playground. They're letting you know that they were bullied. They have a problem with you telling them what to do. They have a problem with you taking charge of their lives. Pay attention. Ask that question. It's a nice, friendly question, and it doesn't really make a person feel vulnerable because it's not really intruding. But when you understand the dynamic of that question, you can begin to sit back and say, okay. Or it could be something like, oh, it was my father. It was my father who did it because, I felt he was abusive in his punishment. Right? So if it was their mother, if it were a sister, if it were a brother, if it were a relative that caused them a certain amount of distress, you know that there's a trauma that's attached to it. And usually that lets you know how they think about certain things. It can be anyone. Absolutely, Mr. Simmons. It can be anyone. If it, like I said, an example was a bully on the playground. The other example was the father who was heavy-handed in punishment. It could have been a mother who was heavy-handed in punishment or didn't show love. Could have been a grandparent, could have been an aunt or uncle, but that's associated with a certain trauma that I remember as a child, and this person is one I did not like. So that tells you about their personality. If I'm always being yelled at by my parent, I don't take you yelling at me. I don't want you raising your voice to me. That's not something that sits well with me. So this is a question that you ask because they're revealing more to you in this question than you just coming out and asking a certain thing. You can't come out and ask someone, well, what traumatized you the most? Because then they feel vulnerable. But when you ask this question and say, okay, now what is the person that you dislike the most growing up? And they begin to explain to you why, then you can begin to discern where they are. How you doing? It's good to see you, money. And so then you can begin to discern. So who was the person that you disliked the most during your childhood? Very good question to ask. Very good question. Must be asked because you'll begin to see some things. And people will begin to open up and share more with you. Again, people don't mind being real if they don't have to be too vulnerable. Okay? And that's just what it is. People don't mind being real if they don't have to be too vulnerable. Because that allows them and it takes them to a certain place that they have no desire to be. It makes them uncomfortable. Anybody who feels like they're vulnerable and it feels like they're going to be open too much too soon, it gives you a level of discomfort because you don't know. You're expecting judgment and things like that. The next question: what happened with your last relationship? Now, sometimes we ask this question and sometimes we don't. Sometimes people say, well, I don't want to hear about your ex-man. I don't want to hear about your ex-girlfriend. Oh, you most certainly do. Oh, yes. Yes, you do. And the reason why is because if this is someone new in your life and you're asking them about a past relationship, sometimes it can be awkward. But you have to see how they see themselves. And if a person is blaming the other person and they always see themselves as a victim, that's a problem. That's a problem. If you ask a girl and you say, listen, what happened in your last relationship? Oh, he was a cheater. I did everything for him. I cooked, I cleaned, I did everything, and it wasn't good enough. It just wasn't good enough. He just dogged me. He just abused me, and I still stayed. You know what? Be careful of people who cannot be mature enough to take accountability for their actions. It takes two people to be in a relationship. It takes two. So yes, you want to know what happened. It's an awkward question. I get it. I agree. But I need to know, hey, what happened? Y'all broke up after, tell me what's going on. And most people will say, well, I don't want to hear about it. And I'm telling you, yes, you do. Yes, you do. And it says something about the person when you're out on a date with them or you're seeing them and they bring it up first. Oh, I'm glad you're not like my last boyfriend. Says a lot. It absolutely says a lot. Woo, my other woman, yeah, she didn't cook and she didn't clean and, So you have to really be aware of people who will not take accountability for their actions, who are not mature enough to say, you know what, the relationship, it was going fine. It didn't work out. I have some issues with jealousy, right? Just tell me what's going on. Or I have some issues with, not being respected in this manner. Because sometimes you think that a person is thinking that they're respecting you. And you're like, that's not the respect that I desire. That's not the respect that I need. Because a lot of women will say, I respect my man by cooking and cleaning. But then when you get into an argument with him, you call him all types of names and emasculate him. Is that the respect that you're talking about? Because what you think is respect may not be the respect that he desires to have. And I'm sure most men are saying, you can keep that cooking and cleaning to yourself if every time I turn around, you have to disrespect me in words. Right? So you do want to know what went on in that last relationship. What happened? That's something that you need to know. You need to know some things that will allow you to see what's going to take place later on, because they will repeat this pattern with you in time. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. This pattern will be repeated. And the same thing will happen. You'll be the no good, dirty, low down dog. Right? So you want to know what absolutely happened. You want to see what their level of maturity is when becoming accountable for the things that they said and the things that they've done in a relationship. This is what you want to absolutely know. Now, the third question is this, and I stated this earlier. We like to ask these questions about, where do you work? What kind of job do you have? What's your occupation? How much do you make? Do you see yourself getting promoted? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? We always get that. You always hear that. That's what the nice little relationship gurus like to tell you to ask. But this is the question you really should be asking is, have you ever been fired from a job? Okay, y'all. I know it sounds strange. You just like, wait a minute. I got to ask this joker, have they ever been fired? This goes for men and women. Have you ever been fired from a job? Now you're wondering, well, why would I ask that question? Thank you for asking. And it's a damn good question. The reason why you want to ask that question is you want to see how they handle conflict. Because before you get fired, you usually have a discussion about your performance, right? Absolutely. Now, understanding that getting fired is not the same as being laid off. And most people will say that. If you say, Dr. YaYa, have you ever been fired? I'll say, well, I've been laid off, but I haven't been fired. Totally different than getting das boot. Totally different than someone saying, get your and get out. Okay, totally, totally different. So you want to know that because you want to know how people handle pressure, how they handle conflict, how they handle when someone is not pleased with their performance. Have you been fired from a job? And I understand that this may make some people feel vulnerable, like, oh, I don't know. I don't, oh, I don't know if I should bring it up. But you should absolutely ask that question, because you will see where that person's mind is. You will see, oh, wait a minute. You know what? I did get fired. And well, why did you get fired? They wanted me to show up on first shift. And I'm not ready for first shift. Oh, so you just don't want to be accountable and responsible. Or yes, I got fired because the manager didn't like me. What? So no accountability. Oh yeah, I was fired because I showed up late more than twice. Oh, so you just don't give a shit. So all of these things come out. And so that you'll have a person who is willing to be accountable for their actions in regard to what their responsibilities are. But we suddenly ever hear this question asked when it comes to meeting new people, when it comes to people that we want in our lives. Some people will freely admit that, I can't keep a job for longer than 2 weeks. What the hell is wrong with you? That says a lot. It absolutely says a lot. What the hell you mean? You can't keep a job. You had 10 jobs in 1 year. What's the matter? What's going on? Are you doing any type of self-care? Are you meditating? What is wrong with you? So yes, you have to ask that question. It must be asked. The next question 4, very important question. What did you learn today? What did you learn today? And no, you're not talking to children. You're not talking to school age little kids. You're not talking to kindergartners. I used to ask my sons that every time they came home from school. What did you learn today? But guess what? You have to ask grown as people that too. What did you learn today? Just in your everyday interactions, just from you being online, just from you even probably watching, for those who watch TV, what did you learn today? When you ask someone, what did they learn today? What you're asking them is, are you an open-minded person? Are you receptive to change? Are you willing to do something that kind of stretches your comfort zone? Are you willing to do that? Or are you just stuck and stubborn and in that you can't teach an old dog new tricks kind of way? And if you want someone in your life, you want them to be able to be receptive to change, because change is imminent. I don't care who you are. I don't care how old you are, what race you are, what gender you are, what's your sexual orientation. Change is imminent. It's going to happen to everyone. So there's nothing wrong with asking someone, what did you learn today? Did you pick up anything interesting? Any new information that you didn't know before? And if a person says no, that's a problem. That's a problem. You have to be aware that that is certainly a problem. And that's a problem because they're closed off. That's an issue because they think that this is it. I don't need to learn anything beyond what I know now. A lot of people think that learning stops when you graduate from school. They just, what the hell? I'm finished. But as long as you're living, there is something that you should learn, something that you should know, a bit of information that is going to add to your life. Something that you should know. I have never changed a tire in my life? Never. But do I know how to change one? Absolutely. I've never cut grass. But do I know how a lawnmower works? Absolutely. I certainly do. So it ought to be something that you are learning. It ought to be something that you are getting that's going to be of benefit to you. So yes, a very valid question. What did you learn today? Was there anything interesting that you added to your life today? What was it? And we don't really ask those questions, and we should. That's the question that should be asked. And it's certainly one that should be answered when it comes to you. The fifth and final question. This is just a doozy, right? Chris said I'm bougie. That's why I haven't changed the tire. Well, Chris, you know I believe in gender roles, honey. I believe in gender roles, honey. If I have a flat tire, okay. So he gonna be out there fixing it. You know, you don't pay for AAA for nothing. Come on, somebody help me out, okay? And that's why you have lawn care services. I'm just saying. Just, cut the grass. It looks nice and cute when you do it. Edge it up, okay? That may be bougie. You're possibly right. But at least I know how to do it, right? At least I have that information on hand just in case. I'll probably never use it. I'm trying to told you, okay? I'll probably never use it, but I know it. I know you pull the little thingy out to crank up the lawnmower. I've never put my hand on it, but I know it's there. I know it's there. Okay? Stop laughing at me, Chris. I know it's there. All right. This fifth and final question. If you had 3 wishes, what would they be? I know this question sounds a bit trivial. I know it sounds crazy. I know it sounds like, oh, it's a nice, fun question. But when you ask this question, it lets you know where people's priorities are. It lets you know where they think they lack, right? It lets you know whether they're generous people. It lets you know whether they're selfish people. You learn a lot from this question. If you had 3 wishes, what would they be? If someone says, money, where you think that they lack and where they prioritize. If people say to have love unconditional, where they may experience some insecurities within their own person. If a person says, I desire to have a loving and caring family in the future, it lets you know what they see for themselves and what they desire for themselves. So this question answers a lot without it being too invasive and intrusive where a person feels like they have to shut down. It really does. And it's a nice fun question. But for you, that, oh, wait a minute, I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a lot just by this question. If I were to ask the people in the chat and I say, okay, if you had 3 wishes, what would they be? And you guys answer, that tells me this is what you prioritize. This is what you feel like you don't have, but you desire. This is where you have your needs and your wants, because everyone's answers are going to be different, right? Everyone's answers are going to be different. Okay, so Chris said he likes that question. He's going to ask Raquel. Raquel, I'm going to ask. No, I'm not. I'm not asking. I refuse. Y'all, I refuse to play matchmaker on Ask Dr. YaYa. I'm not going to do it. I know Chris is trying to set me up. It's a setup. I don't know what's going on, but I halted right now. Okay. Right now. But those are the 5 questions that you should ask someone. Again, let's go through them. The first one, who was the person that you disliked the most during your childhood? Number two, what happened with your last relationship? Extremely important. Number three, have you ever been fired from a job? Tells you a lot about accountability. Four, what did you learn today? Are you open to change? Right? That's what it's telling you. And five, if you had three wishes, what would they be? I know what you're prioritizing in your life. I know where you're lacking, and I know what your passions and desires are. Absolutely. 5 questions you should ask, but never ask. Ask those questions. Ask those questions. Very important to ask those questions because you will absolutely learn a lot, like I stated earlier. I just want to give a shout out to Frederick Blue, who ordered a mug on the website. He was my first customer. I certainly appreciate that. Shout out to you. And Raquel will be getting you your mug. I think she's going to mail them out in a week when the packages go out. We certainly appreciate it. I know I appreciate it. Love you guys so much. This is so wonderful. And yeah, that's what we do. Again, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Remember, askdryaya.com. That is where you go. Be encouraged. I have daily affirmations up. It changes every day. You go in there and be inspired. I'd like for you to like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I certainly appreciate it. It's a great thing. I am not putting too much on Raquel. Raquel has been with me for a long, long time. She is about the only one who can handle all of these things that I need done. And I certainly appreciate her. And, just great. Just a loving, caring, and kind person. And I appreciate that. I have to have positivity around me because it's such a great thing. And she's a very positive person. And I appreciate that. And I think I show her and tell her that. And I'm not trying to marry her off, Chris. It's not going to happen, Mr. Jones. I'm going to need you to stop courting my personal assistant. Thank you. I'm going to need you to stop doing that because you're going to have a problem. It's going to be a problem. But you guys, I absolutely love you. You already know it's absolutely 30 minutes of practical wisdom and common damn sense that I bring to you. Remember, you are loved, you are valued, and you are appreciated. And I'll see you guys on the next episode. Love you guys.